Okay, thank you. I'd like to call this meeting, this January 19th, 2021 meeting to order. I am Deputy Mayor Tony Emerson. The mayor unfortunately is ill and couldn't be here tonight. So our first order of business is the invocation. And so if you would stand as you're able, and please direct your attention to Councilman Padilla for the introduction of our guest.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This evening, we have as our guest, Pastor Jonathan Sublett. Pastor is the servant pastor of Fellowship Highcrest. He moved to Topeka to truly serve our community. As the sole staff member for Fellowship Highcrest, with volunteer support, he led the launch of the church campus. Jonathan brings residents from all over Topeka Highcrest for services each weekend, and the church has grown from approximately 60 to over 300 people. While launching the Fellowship Highcrest campus, Jonathan also created a nonprofit, SENT. SENT has three major pillars: education, business development, and community health. In 2019, SENT built the first new home in the Highcrest community in over 60 years. Is proud to have a clinical therapist on campus and now owns and leases several rental properties for their community. SENT is also currently in the process of opening an early childhood development center in the Southeast Topeka area. Jonathan was a member of the 2020 class of Top 20 Under 40, as well as the 2021 class of Leadership Greater Topeka. Join me in welcoming Pastor Sublett this evening for our invocation. Thank you, Pastor, for being here.
Thank you all for the invite. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this evening and your presence in this place. Although we may be separated physically, we're honored that your spirit would abide in us wherever we're at. Your promise in your word was to never leave us alone. Through trying times, through hard times, through sickness, and in times of good health, you are there with your people. You've been there with the city of Topeka. You continue to have a future for us. Father, I pray that you would give wisdom and insight to our elected officials, that you would give them courage and boldness to lead in the way that you see fit, one that reflects your son, Jesus Christ. Father, I ask that you would continue to join us together as a city of people who, although we may have many differences, can all relish in the fact of being made in your image. I pray, Father, that as the days go on, as we continue into the year 2021, that we would come to know the true value and worth of every single person that we live in this community with, that we will look for some way to use the resources, the gifts, and the tool that you've blessed us with to help raise another, to help encourage another, to help see our city go forward. May we be a reflection of what a truly caring community looks like for the rest of the state and for the country. Be with our mayor as she is healing from sickness, keeper, supporter, encourager, and be with our officials for the rest of this meeting. We ask these things in dark son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, please be seated. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Mayor De La Isla, Council Members Hiller.
Here.
Valdivia Acala. I know she's here. Council Members Ortiz.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Padilla.
Here.
Nager.
Here.
Dobler.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
And Lesser.
Here.
We have 9 present.
Thank you. Item 2.
2 are board appointments. A is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of, or the appointment of Jennifer Goods to the Topeka Human Relations Commission to fill a term ending December 31, 2022. B is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Nicholas Smith to the Topeka Human Relations Commission to fill an unexpired term ending February 11, 2022. C is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Carol Roberts to the Topeka Human Relations Commission to fill an unexpired term ending February 28, 2022. D is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Jeremy Gibson to the Topeka Human Relations Commission to fill an unexpired term ending June 30, 2022. And E is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Angela Sharp to the Board of Building and Fire Appeals for a term ending December 31, 2022.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the body? Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm requesting the 2C be removed and placed on action item.
Okay, and it's my understanding from our parliamentarian that that is done at any councilman or woman's prerogative. So that will become action item. I guess I will defer to the city clerk. Does that go to the end of the action agenda then?
Yes, so B.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we
Thank
have
you.
appointments. You're welcome. So we have appointments A through A, B, D, and E. What's the pleasure of the body? Councilwoman Ortiz moves to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Nager. Any discussion? If not, clerk, could you please read the?
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Aquila,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Padilla,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Lesser.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
Okay. Next item.
Have a hand up.
I'm sorry, Councilman Lesser.
I didn't get it written down in time. Which one did we move to D, or I'm sorry, E?
C. C will become action item E.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
3A is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Brent Trapp allowing and approving city expenditures for the period of October 31 through November 27, 2020, and enumerating said expenditures therein. B are minutes of the regular meeting of January 12, 2021, and there are no applications.
All right. You've heard the consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the body? Councilman Padilla moves to approve. Councilman Lesser seconds. Any discussion? If not, I'd ask the clerk, please read the roll.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Aquila,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Padilla, Padilla,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Lesser.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
All right, we move on to the action items, a much anticipated item here by a lot of people in the city. So the clerk could please read.
A is election of a deputy mayor to serve a 1-year term pursuant to Topeka Municipal Code, Section A2-26B.
All right, and I apologize, let me grab something out of the printer. So this is obviously the nomination for the deputy mayor. And obviously, so everyone watching here knows what's going to happen. As soon as a new deputy mayor is elected, they will start chairing the meeting from there on out. So which should make for a much better meeting. But I would open the floor to nominations. I would note that Councilman Lesser and Padilla are automatically nominated as the longest tenured on the council who have not yet served as deputy mayor. So we have Councilman Lesser and Councilman Padilla. Is there any other nominations for deputy mayor? Yeah, Councilman Lesser.
Thank
You're
you.
on. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm getting an echo here. I would, at this point in time, I would like to withdraw for consideration for Deputy Mayor and nominate, I guess he's already nominated, but withdraw my nomination automatically as Deputy Mayor candidate and in support of Councilman Padilla as Deputy Mayor. And if I'm fortunate enough to get reelected next term, then I'll do it maybe possibly next year. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman Lesser. Councilman Dobler.
I would move the nomination cease.
Is there a second to that? Seconded by Councilwoman Nager. All right. So earlier today, you guys all got a kind of a thing how this is a little different this year due to the way we're conducting these meetings. So I will turn it over to our very capable city clerk, Brenda Younger, to lead us through this. And if you could please explain a little bit. I think actually, I'm sorry, the city manager, I think, wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Tonight, when we do our votes, one of the things that we have is with the way we've been doing roll call votes, it's always District 1 that starts. So since there may be multiple iterations of this vote, although at Deputy Mayor, it's unlikely given that there's only one, but as we go into JADO, there may be multiple iterations for the JADO vote. We're going to start the vote with the first iteration with District 1. When we start with the JADO, we will start with District 2. If it takes a third round, we'll start with District 3 when we do the vote and then go around as we normally do. That way, District 1 isn't always the first one to vote in order to just to make it a little more fair with regards to how we're starting the vote on the item. And so we'll see how many votes we need, but that's how we'll proceed. So first with Deputy Mayor, it'll be District 1 that starts.
Okay, Councilmember Hiller,
Yes. Or Padilla, whatever I'm supposed to say.
Valdivia Akala,
You're muted, Chris.
Yes for Padilla.
Ortiz,
Padilla.
Emerson,
Yes, for me.
Padilla.
Councilmember Padilla,
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Councilmember Nager,
Yes, for Padilla.
Dobler,
The electors of District 7 cast their one vote for Mike Padilla.
Duncan,
Yes, for Padilla.
and Lesser.
Yes.
We have 9 yes. Councilmember Padilla will serve as our new deputy mayor.
All right. Congratulations, Deputy Mayor Padilla. And at this point, I'm going to turn this meeting over to you.
Well, thank you very much, ex-deputy mayor. I appreciate that very much. I hope you all will bear with me as we work through this first meeting. And as I understand it, I see it on the agenda. The next action item is to the election of Joint Economic Development Organization members. Since the deputy mayor is already a voting member to JADO, I will now entertain nominations for 2 other council members to serve as voting members of JADO. We will start with the first position. Are there any nominations? And understand that you can self-nominate as well. So if you are now serving and want to continue in that capacity, you can certainly do so. So we'll start with any nominations. Council Member Dobler.
Yes, I would nominate Councilman Lesser.
I accept.
Thank you. I believe that we move on with this nomination before we move on to the second one. Am I correct, City Manager?
Yes.
Sorry, I was muted. I think we submit two names, isn't it? Multiple, and then so if there's two names, it'll be easier, but if there's multiple names, and there's three or more, then you could have differing ballots with regards to voting for one and number three, or number one and number two, or number two and number three. So we take all nominations and then people put forward their ballot.
Okay. Thank you. So are there any further nominations for JADO? Councilwoman Hiller.
I have a question, actually. So we have 4 people that vote on 2 elected persons. There is also a council rep to go to Topeka. Is that correct? And that's a mayoral appointment that I think carries forward. I wondered who our rep is right now to go to Topeka.
I am.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
I wanted to just ask Brenda how logistically this would work for her if we do multiples. I don't know if you can do it easily enough where you are to have multiple people. And
I think we'll be okay as long as, we don't get to 4 or 5 people, but if we get to 2 or 3, I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
Write them down and we'll work through it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ortiz, and then Councilmember Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to make a motion for Hannah.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to nominate Hannah. I'm sorry, I'd like to nominate Hannah for.
Councilmember Nager, do you accept the nomination?
I do accept. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Valdivia Alcala.
Okay, I'm still let's backtrack a little bit. So we're doing the first position for JADO, not that there's 2 positions we're voting on, and we're taking the recommendations or the nominations for the number 1 position, Lesser and Nager for this one so far. What are we doing?
Well,
all as a group?
Yeah, that was my understanding is how it was to be done, that we would take the first one, and after those nominations were closed for the first position, we would vote, and then move on to the second position, take nominations and vote on it. Am I correct, Brenda?
Sounds good.
Okay, so right now, as it stands, we have
Point of order. That's not correct.
okay.
Yeah.
we have typically done this by that route. But now that it's virtual and remote, we had set it up where we did one position and the second. And that's why I asked Brenda the question, will you be okay with kind of sifting through this if we do it all on the same, I guess, vote? And that's why I asked her, because we have typically done in the past when everybody was physically present and we were able to have ballots, we did that kind of filtering out process, but this was different and we were going to approach it one person at a time, but she's saying that she can do it 2 at a time, 1 vote, I guess, depending on
Right.
Okay.
As long
how
as
many votes each person gets.
Right. As long as you all answered 2 names, then you've got the 1 and the second voting member. So.
Okay.
Okay, I think I understand that. So thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I would like to nominate, if he's open, Spencer Duncan.
Okay. Councilmember Duncan, do you accept the nomination?
Well, I appreciate the nomination, and I do go to all the JEDO meetings, and I will continue to do so. But I'm okay with the other 2 nominations at this point. So I guess no, but I very much appreciate it. But we'll continue to stay actively involved.
Thank you, council member. Are there any other nominations then for the JEDO voting positions? We have Council Member Lesser and Council Member Nager for the two open positions, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then as you stated, City Manager, will start with Council Member Hiller to vote first as a roll call vote.
District 2, we'll start with Valdivia.
Okay, District 2, vote for 2, Lesser and Nager.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Here. I vote for the nominees, Lesser and Nager.
Councilmember Emerson,
The suspense is killing me, but Nager and Lesser.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes, I vote for the two nominees, Lesser and Nager.
Councilmember Nager,
I vote for the two nominees, Lesser and Nager.
Councilmember Dobler,
I will also vote for the two nominees, Lesser and Nager.
Councilmember Duncan,
Yes, for both.
and Lesser.
Yes for both, and thank you.
And Councilmember Hiller.
Yes for both.
Okay, we have 9 yes for both council members Lesser and Nager, so they will serve as our 2 new voting members on the JEDO board.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations. Moving on to action item C then, amending the governing body rule. City Manager?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This committee, the Infrastructure Committee, was formed. One of the issues that was put before them was whether or not to make this a standing committee. And so I would ask Council Member Dobler to explain what that deliberation was with the committee and how the committee voted.
Thank you, City Manager and Deputy Mayor. Yes, we at our last meeting in December, we discussed whether or not to recommend to the full council that this committee be extended to a standing committee, and it was a unanimous vote in the affirmative. I think we received some testimony from the city manager that staff actually, I think at this point appreciates the committee and being able to projects in a forum where a public forum that maybe isn't the full council every time. I know we've had other council members attend and express interest in it. So I think it's a worthwhile committee, and I think our recommendation is definitely to make it a standing committee.
Thank you, Councilman Dover. Anyone else wish to comment from the committee about keeping this as a standing committee? I will just say something real quickly then, because I've had the pleasure of serving with the gentleman on this committee, and I have to tell you that I really think it's an excellent committee put together with people who really know what they're talking about. And I think that the idea that we're able to work through these issues in, I think, a quicker way in a committee forum and bring recommendations to the entire governing body, I think is very helpful. I know it's been informative to me. And for those interested parties, either on the council or the public, I think it brings out a lot of information about how a lot of the infrastructure occurs in our city. And so I would fully support the recommendation to make it a standing committee. Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too am going to support this because I believe that especially in our older neighborhoods and as we go about doing different types of infrastructure updates, et cetera, looking at even things as basic, which are really big deal, like the 50/50 sidewalk program, et cetera. The meetings have been very informative, and I think it's a really good standing committee to have, so I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilmember Duncan.
So I have a logistical question. I support this change. My question is, as it relates to the deputy mayor traditionally not serving on committees. I know, can we talk about, because this is adding a committee, which means stretching the bodies maybe to another committee. Can someone give me some, is it that the deputy mayor, dealer's choice, I guess it is each year, where the deputy mayor can choose whether to serve on a committee, traditionally doesn't? Is that an actual rule that we've tried to in place? How do we envision a deputy mayor now probably serving on one of these committees? I'm just curious if we've thought about that aspect of it.
City Manager, do you have a response to the councilman?
I think Lisa's looking at her. Are you looking at your council member guidelines or your? I think that it is up. I don't think there's anything that prohibits a deputy mayor from serving on a committee, but you found it, Lisa?
Yeah, it's at 8.2A. 4 standing committees, each comprised of 3 members, which is what this one would be comprised of. And right now, I think it's 4 members, so it would be, bumped down to 3. The deputy mayor appoints members to each of the standing committees referenced, and shall make a reasonable effort to stagger the terms for the purpose of establishing familiarity and continuity. Appointments made by the first meeting in February. Each council member shall fill out a preference sheet. It doesn't really say anything about the deputy mayor not being able to serve.
Okay, and I couldn't find anything either, but I thought I'd double check, because I would have suggested if we needed to make that change, we should. But if we feel we're good, then I thought we should at least make sure in case we need to add that individual to one committee to help, so we're not all spread too thin. So thank you.
Good question.
Thank you, Lisa. Councilmember Ortiz, did you have a comment? I thought I saw your hand go up. No? Okay. If I might say this too, again, in support of that as a standing committee, I welcome someone else to take my spot, not because I don't like serving on the committee, but I think it's important for us to rotate some of these opportunities. So keeping the 3 that primaries that are there now, Tony Emerson, Lesser, and Dobler, I think if they continue to want to serve on that committee, I think that's a good group right there. And it's not necessary that the deputy mayor participate, but like you, Council Member Duncan, I like to eavesdrop and listen in on them as well. So there's no reason for me to actually be a sitting member, but any of us can sit in and listen to the work of any of the committees here. So I think I'm comfortable with that. Did you have a comment, Council Member Duncan?
Yeah, I would just follow up with, I wasn't as concerned with this committee. My thought was, as you put the committees together, if one of those this makes a 3rd committee they serve on, and you take one of their seats on another committee so that they're only on 2, or however that go. That's all. I just wanted to make sure that whoever the deputy mayor was, in this case, you had the flexibility to be able to do that if you needed to.
And I appreciate that. And I received earlier the preference list that all the council members submitted for where they would like to serve or continue serving in the coming year. Council Member Emerson? You're on mute, sir.
Darn it, I just unmuted. I just like to thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to move approval.
Thank you. I have a motion. I have a second by Council Member Dobler. Brenda will take a vote.
Okay, Council Members Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Alcala,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Padilla,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Lesser.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Move on to action item 4D, City Manager.
I'm going to go ahead and read this into the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenda. Go ahead.
D is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Brent Trout pertaining to an amendment to the text and map of the Topeka Comprehensive Plan for the East Topeka North Neighborhood Plan.
City Manager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Tonight, we're here to consider approval of the ordinance for the East Topeka North Neighborhood Plan. We had a good discussion and presentation at the last meeting, and so we felt comfortable going ahead and bringing this forward at this meeting. So staff is here and available. Mr. Finder's here. Bryson was on earlier, if he's still around. Yeah, there he is. And Dan Warner are here. So if you have any questions related to the process or the items listed in the plan, they're here to answer questions. Otherwise, we seek approval of this plan tonight.
What is the pleasure of the body? Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will be supporting this. I see Bryson's on, and I'm not sure if you were on last week or not, Bryson. I just want to say thank you, because you really went above and beyond with all of the work and minutia that you went to really get people invested in the process from the neighborhood, and being creative along with Monique and Latoya on how to get responses in, which were so challenging. The neighborhood plan looks good, and I just hope that the due diligence is there. We know you have it, Bryson, but by all those that work within the city to help make this neighborhood plan come alive, not just on paper, but in the community. And that is going to take a long range commitment, and also not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. So I'm definitely in support.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This plan is long and overdue, and I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
Have a motion and a second by Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala. Brenda, will you call the roll?
Okay, council members Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Alcala,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Padilla,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Lesser.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
Thank you all. We'll move on now to our non-action items. We have a discussion about capital improvement plan.
Point of order.
I'm sorry?
Point of order, Deputy Mayor. We have the deferred item next.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I probably.
4E is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Carol Roberts to the Topeka Human
Oh,
Commission to fill an unexpired term ending February 28, 2022.
okay, pardon me. Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would move to defer this particular nomination until the first February meeting. I don't have my calendar here. Brenda, can you tell me what that date is?
February 2nd.
The February 2.
Have a motion and a second to defer. Councilwoman Ortiz. She seconds it. Thank you. Okay. Brenda, will you read the roll call vote, please?
Council members Hiller,
Was there a reason? We kind of jumped straight to a vote.
Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
I guess that is an important part of it, isn't it? I have questions. I have 2 major issues that I need to do more research on with this particular nominee to feel confident in which way I vote. which is why I'm asking for it to be deferred. I can go into those reasons if you'd like, or we can just wait until I do more due diligence on my part and then come back for the vote the first Tuesday of February.
Thank you.
Because I plan on calling, since the nominees are not here in this virtual world, and since we're not in the chambers, I plan to go ahead and give her a call and ask her a couple of questions on some of her application answers and one other item as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions or comments before we take a vote? Seeing none, Brenda, would you call the vote, please?
Council members Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Aquila,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Padilla,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Lesser.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Now we can move on to the non-action items. Tony, I was counting on you, but no, you just sit there, don't say anything. Anyway.
A is a discussion for the purpose of reviewing the capital improvement plan policy and the financial parameters of the capital improvement plan for 2022 to 2031.
City Manager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, as we move forward, beginning of the year here, we take a start to the budget process. And one of those things is to overview, the first item is to overview our capital improvement plan process. And so tonight, Steve and Wade will go through a presentation related to that. So I'll ask Mr. Wade to begin.
Good evening, governing body and city manager. Tonight, in looking at the...
Stephen, we can barely hear you.
Let me try this a little bit better. Is that any better?
A little bit.
How about that?
Much better.
Okay. So tonight, we'll begin the capital improvement project basis and would like to present a presentation tonight. You should have on your screen now our presentation. As you know, the capital improvement plan process is a long-range plan to maintain and develop city assets and infrastructure. It's worthy to note that while the financing part of this process is important, we've primarily focused on the needs. You will hear that recurring theme as we conduct the CIP workshop on February the 6th. This is a plan built on public transparency that works in conjunction with overall strategic goals and affiliated plans, which balance capital needs and the city's financial ability to pay. Each project is evaluated independently on its own merits as it contributes to long-term appropriate asset maintenance. The 10-year CIP plan is broken down into 4 parts. The first year is newly initiated, continuing, or completed projects in 2022. The second is a 3-year plan, the capital improvement budget, with detailed plans in place. The debt policy also applies to this. 4 to 5 years are projects with plans being developed in anticipation of moving into the 3-year CIB. And 6 to 10 years are horizon projects with no funding sources identified. Council Resolution 8831 calls for priority to be given to projects resulting in reduced operating costs, and a higher priority be given to maintaining existing facilities and infrastructure over that of new construction. To be considered for a capital project, they must meet one of the following items below. Taking the aggressive interpretation of this definition, we've chosen to include some existing IT components this year that we use to keep our city running, such as our payroll time clock system. The governing body has identified 7 categories when examining proposed projects. Refreshing the process, feedback from Councilman Duncan, I believe these are the categories that you mentioned last spring: neighborhoods, traffic, facilities, utilities, quality of life, public safety, and streets. While these are the same categories as before, when you see February 6th and your books next week, we will reorganize it to where it's presented into these categories. Much of the preliminary work has already been completed, and we're now about halfway through. You'll be receiving notebooks next week in advance of the February 6th workshop. Jessica Lamandola is also on. Jessica, you want to talk about the financing part of CIP?
Sure. Thank you, Stephen. So just looking at our primary revenue sources to support the overall capital book, first is general obligation bonds and short-term notes, utility revenue bonds. So those are both items that we would go to the bond market to borrow. We also have a section in our book that's supported by sales tax, followed by cash, pay-as-you-go, and then grants and donations. So the general obligation debt is essentially the funding source for projects that don't have another funding source that's an appropriate source for that. When we sell a general obligation bond, whether it's long-term or short-term, we attach the city's full faith and credit to that so that bondholders know that the city is fully committed to paying debt service over the life of the arrangement. And the city does also maintain a separate debt issuance policy, and that can be found on the city's website. Next, a significant portion of our overall capital improvement plan is obviously related to the utility services. And while the utility department does include some cash funding for projects, we also rely on issuing revenue bonds, which the security on that type of instrument is the revenue of the utility system. And so while we talk about the utility system or department as a whole, that is made up of the water, wastewater, and stormwater functions. And then on the sales tax side, as I mentioned, we have 2 funding sources for sales tax projects. One is the half-cent sales tax, the citywide, and then the other one is countywide projects. And so our Public Works Department manages a variety of projects that have these different funding sources, and those are broken out in our book as well. So then our other 3 types of sources are not as large as some of the other areas, but cash on hand, this is called PAYGO, or pay as you go. This is really coming from potentially like surpluses in a regular fiscal year where you have an operating surplus. You could rely on reserves for those one-time capital expenses. And then also you could also within the operating budget, just budget a portion of your operations to fund capital. And we do that for the police vehicles currently. So there's ways, you start to build that into your operating budget. On the grant side, self-explanatory, but the city will go out and try to obtain funding for projects from the federal, state governments, and as well as nonprofit foundations. And then followed by donations. The city primarily reflects donations when it comes to the zoo. We haven't received as many donations for the different street projects or other items that the city relies on for operations.
For the council's benefit, as well as the constituents, past CIP books can be found at topeka.org under the government pull-down menu. The new proposed book will also be posted for public input after submitted to the governing body. And The full version of this PowerPoint breaks down, you received that on Friday, but the full version of this PowerPoint breaks down the various components of the book. We'll cover them when we meet with you one-on-one and in small groups over the next couple of weeks. We'll also post the full version online so that constituents can have a good tutorial. And questions can certainly be directed to budget@topeka.org for any considerations out in the public. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I apologize for the bad mic, but I'll certainly stand for questions.
No worries. Anyone from the governing body would like to pose any questions from the presentation of Mr. Wade, or any questions? Councilmember Duncan.
First of all, I will thank staff for breaking it down. I think that will be helpful as we go through it. I mean, I know it's still the quote unquote same information, but I think having that helps us wrap our heads around it a little bit better and not makes that huge book seem a little smaller. So I very much appreciate staff's work on that. And if we think it needs tweaked after we've done it this way, we can have that discussion. So thank you there. What is the timeline? Can you just review with us and the public what the timeline is for this process, what the steps are, the ability, will there be public hearings? Just walk us through the reminder of this process once again would be very helpful.
I can give the rough outline and Jessica flesh out if I'm missing anything here, but on the 25th, so next Monday, the Infrastructure Committee will see a small report, and then the council should start receiving books on the 26th. After the 26th, we've offered the ability to every member of the governing body to meet one-on-one or in small groups leading up to the public work group session on February 6th. That's a Saturday morning. After that, I believe it proceeds to where the council will vote for approval with amendments in April.
One follow-up there.
Yes.
One of the conversations we had during this last process, and I expressed some concern and frustration at that time, so I will express it again today, is I do not like voting for this as one all or nothing package. And that was a conversation we had last year as to whether we should break it down and vote for it in some categories or by department or whatever that was. And maybe that's not going to change. But has there been any more talk about that, doing that sort of approval, or are we still planning to do the sort of approve the entire thing, one package or else kind of deal?
In terms of the finance department, we haven't received any specific direction as to splitting it up in that manner. One of the reasons we would think about continuing in the same path is that this is intended to be a comprehensive plan. And so pieces from one area impact something in somewhere else. So if you're going to reduce function or funding in streets, maybe that means facilities or vehicles would receive that additional funding. But certainly I think that it makes sense to continue to look at it incrementally, whether that is by the type of project, the length of project, even to make sure that we have fair representation in terms of the overall city where projects are occurring. But I would either defer to the city manager or the city attorney in terms of whether, I would assume that would be an option of the governing body.
City manager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Duncan, what I would look at is there are a number of meetings that we will have as governing body through February and March where we can take pieces of this, and so it's maybe a general support. So we bring it up as a discussion item, say for utilities and streets, and we have a discussion further about if are there changes or things that we want, and basically come to a consensus that this is what we support going forward. Because at the end of the day, what Jessica said is true, is that we have to approve this all as one package, because if we make one change in this spot, it can affect another spot. If we want to add or subtract, those are impacts. And so we need to approve it as one package. But that doesn't mean we have other nights where we agree that this sub-package of the whole is what we want to see and get that approval from you and then move on and kind of count that good and set it aside and discuss the different sections as we go along so that at the end we've had a better consideration of an area with the intention of eventually bringing it all together for one final approval.
And I would appreciate that because I think one of my frustrations last time was, and I know that staff gets asked a lot of questions by each of us. And so I know that that's its own challenge in and of itself. And so I'll say this not meaning that they need to answer every single little question per se, although I hope they do. But when you do one giant package, what I think tends to happen, part of its human nature is sometimes you just don't get information because the thought is they're going to pass this thing anyway, whether I get it to them or not, because they've got to pass it. And so then some of us get frustrated in seeing that, well, you know, I guess I'm going to vote for it, but I really never got some of the kind of big questions from certain departments that I needed. And I just want to make sure that doesn't happen and that we all get the opportunity to say, hey, we missed something here. Let's take a second to get that question answered. And so I appreciate all the work and staff and moving forward and just wanted to throw those out there again for discussion.
And Councilman, that is never our intent. Our understanding yet last year when the vote happened was that we had answered to the best of our abilities the questions we received. But obviously this year, if you are requesting information and you haven't received it, you know, that is our job to make sure you feel comfortable. So we apologize if that occurred.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hiller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate this discussion. Going back just to slightly before Councilman Duncan was elected, I think, and joined us, it sounds like the staff has not done a calendar yet. And so the comment that I would make in reaction to all this is to allow enough time to go department by department or section by section, have staff be able to present and answer questions. This extended process for CIP is really fairly new for us, and former Deputy Mayor Emerson gets credit for that. He said, you know, we spend more money in our CIP than we do in the operating budget. Give us some time. So the staff is still developing a rhythm for that. But every time we try and short circuit either the CIP or the operating budget, and it's always done with the best of intentions to not overwhelm the council and not ask for too much time. If there's less than 3 meetings on it, there generally are people who felt like it went too fast and they have a whole lot of questions and they ask for more time anyway. And so just, you know, not being afraid to lay out the amount of time it would take to really walk us through that. That also, city manager's doing a pretty good job, I think, of having the staff from Public Works and Utilities periodically give us a report, which we didn't used to get. But still, I think we all have to remember that for the most part, the CIP process and then the budget process are the only times of the year that we as council members get to engage with the leadership staff on their budgets and their programming. And so it does take some time for us to, it's timely to do it when we're doing budget, but giving them time to do some presentation and allowing time for the council back and forth is valuable. And so it's not a critique at all. I know we've been moving there. I'm just saying, don't be afraid to allow the amount of time that it would take, and appreciate all the work and the thought that's going into this year's process.
Thank you. And I would just like to point out, I think Steve failed to mention that our goal is to provide a draft of the full book on the 26th, which is a week and a half in advance of the 6th meeting. So we've heard your feedback that you need more time with resources and just availability. We're doing everything we can, but our goal is to let you have it a week and a half with access to finance and other departments to explain projects in particular, or just help refine the overall descriptions. And then after that, currently, we're not looking to request a vote until the very beginning of April. And so while we don't have specific items on the calendar has been reviewed, and we're hoping to gain feedback from the governing body on the 6th in terms of those areas that need more information, how to elaborate, the areas that that just need more discussion at governing body meetings. So we certainly look for feedback in it should be 6 meetings, I believe, if I'm counting right, between the work session and when we would initially request your either approval or other feedback.
Good. Thank you.
Councilmember Duncan, I didn't mean to cut you off. It looked like you might have still had something you wanted to add before Councilmember Giller spoke.
That was good. They answered it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to make sure. Anyone else have any comments or questions about the presentation or what we've heard this evening? No, thank you very much. Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to say thank you to the email address that we can send our budget questions to. I've never seen that before, or maybe it's been done and it wasn't given to me. I don't know, but I think that's a big plus, you know, when we're studying, so we're not always trying to figure out who to send it to. So I just want to say to Mr. Wade, that was a plus in my book.
Thank you. You know, we established that last year and we started to get some input from the community. So Councilwoman Ortiz, you can absolutely call, text, anything you need in order to get feedback. So please don't feel like you need to email the budget at Topeka. We certainly want your feedback as quickly as possible. So in terms of the overall book, I just want to say that, you know, the committee, the internal staff committee has met. You know, we're going to be presenting this year not only the draft of the overall CIP that we think we can prioritize and fund. We will also be including new information that actually shows the new projects. So that'll be a page so you can easily see it. We'll be asking to discuss or update on the projects that we've considered public works utilities that have been completed throughout the year. And then we will also be including information as to what projects the staff have requested to fund that we just didn't have funding to actually move forward on. So we're looking at providing, you know, those other pieces of information that assist in your review. In addition, we are also looking at new software that the city has recently acquired to begin more outreach with the overall community. So last year we tried to get in front of the community members at different meetings. Obviously for this year, those are not going to happen, but we are looking at different ways to just better inform the community of not only the upcoming CIP, but how we are using the tax dollars and where they can see the benefit. So you might see us, or at least some of us, on some YouTube or other types of engagement that kind of walks people through the book and other projects.
Thank you, Jessica. I think that's a good idea. And anything you can do to reach out to the public over and over and make it accessible to them at any time of the day. You know, we all don't work at the same hours. And so sometimes some people are up at 10, 11 o'clock or later, and they're just catching up with what's going on. So anytime it's available in that fashion, it's going to be really helpful. So thank you, Jessica and Stephen, very much. Anything else before we move on? Okay. The next one is public comments. City Clerk, do we have anyone signed up for public comment tonight?
No public comment this evening.
Okay, well, thank you. Move on to announcements. Brenda?
There's no preliminary agenda next week, so City Manager Trout.
City Manager?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First announcement is that the city is fortunate enough we're getting an AmeriCorps NCCC team. They will be working and assisting at the library, Shawnee County Public Health, and the city will be utilizing them with a number of issues that they'll be supporting us related to COVID-19 efforts that are being done to help the community. It's pretty special. This team will be here starting this week until April 15th. and it will provide a lot of support across the community. There'll be 9 members on this team, and I think that they're going to do a lot of good things for us, a lot of young, energetic folks that will be very supportive of our community. The other item I have is Jessica, a couple of notes that Jessica Lamondola, she was recently appointed to the Women in Public Finance Board of Directors. Women in Public Finance is a professional networking organization for women in the public finance industry who seek to advance women leadership opportunities. So this is a great honor for her to be on that board of directors. In addition, she'll be starting her 2nd year on as a member of the Government and Finance Officers Association Committee on Governmental Debt Management. So her experience is very strong in this area. So we're excited that she's on the front line of what we're seeing in various cities as how they manage their debt and what we're seeing out there in the world. So this is a helpful thing for her to participate in these areas. It brings back good information for us so that we're on the cutting edge. So wanted to recognize her for that. Otherwise, remember, there is no meeting next week, and so we have a week off. That's it.
Thank you, City Manager. Congratulations, Jessica. I think that's quite a distinction. I think it goes again to say that we do have some very talented people working for the city of Topeka. Sometimes we don't get the opportunity to acknowledge that level of expertise that we have working for the community. So congratulations. I think that's excellent. We move on to announcements. And I guess I'm next, City Manager, this time around?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I just want to make a few comments. I won't make it long. I just want to note that this has been a historic week and continues to be. I was really impressed by all the coverage of the Martin Luther King celebrations locally and nationally. I think it couldn't have come at a better time. When we look at peace as the weapon that we use against violence, I think there's no better standard that we have been able to witness on Martin Luther King celebration. So I am really pleased about that. And then the inauguration. I think for me personally, it was tough to see what went on the 6th, but to see how we are rebounding and preparing for the next 4 years with a new president, whether you elected him or not. I think that the whole idea is that we need to get behind this president, the administration, and anyone who wants to support the efforts to help combat COVID and the economy and a lot of the issues that people keep saying separate us. I don't know so much that they separate us as they cause discourse and discussion. Discussion is done in a quiet manner, not in a shouting manner. So for people who want to still be heard, I ask them to give us the chance to listen. And listening comes by 2 ways. You listen to me and I listen to you. I just am so proud, to be honest with you, to be able to serve at the local level of government. We saw the things that can happen, but local level, I've always said, is the first form of government that most directly affects our communities. And how we respond to it as a community here in Topeka, I think, is extremely important. And the people that I serve with on this governing body make me very proud that I am into my 4th year now and am looking forward to it, even with more enthusiasm. So thank you very much. And we'll move on then. Hannah, Councilwoman Nager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First and foremost, I want to thank my peers for allowing me to serve in the capacity of a JADO voting member. I am excited about the opportunity. I just want to echo the Deputy Mayor's words and sentiments that yesterday was a time to remember a man and a movement that is still going on today, making sure that we are working in a peaceful, cooperative way to find ways to make this nation for all of us, to make it truly for all of us. And I really hope that that spirit is carried through in the next day, weeks, months, and that we come out of this stronger. And I hope and pray that everyone is safe tomorrow. And I also want to send good thoughts to the mayor and hope that she has a speedy recovery. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Dobler.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and congratulations on your new position. I know you'll do a great job there. Hopefully you can meet the bar that was set by former Deputy Mayor Emerson, who did a great job. He's won't tell us that, but he did a fine job. I just want to take a minute. The city manager announced to us earlier this week that Bob Sample, the utilities director, has announced his retirement in early March. I know there'll be more opportunity to give Bob our thanks, but I've known Bob for over 30 years, as I know some other folks on the council have as well. He started out as, I believe, as a laborer in WPC many, many years ago, worked his way up to superintendent of WPC, had a short retirement, and then came back as utilities director. He has done an amazing job in that capacity. The best, I would say, and we've had some really good directors at WPC. We've never had a utility director, I don't think, until that department was split off from Public Works, but has a lot of credibility, has a lot of credibility with the folks in those departments, has had a lot of credibility with the council. And I just want to tell Bob thanks for the good job, and he is going to be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Duncan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have two things this evening. First is a little bit something I mentioned last week, and as we head into tomorrow, still get questions and I see things on social media. Obviously, the governor sent everyone home. State office buildings are closed. The Capitol's closed. Courts have closed for tomorrow, and there's still concerns or questions about if we expect any problems or issues in the capital city or around the Capitol building tomorrow. What we can tell you, I think, as of tonight is no. There is at least nothing heavily organized that we, our law enforcement, are aware of or too concerned about at this point, but they are continuing to monitor it and they're ready for anything if it occurs. And as I said last week, we've been blessed in this city to have peaceful demonstrations at all levels this past year, and I think Topekans will continue to uphold that. Even if they want to be heard, I expect they'll do it peacefully, but to all those out there who have other ideas, there's a lot of folks watching us, so heads up on that one, a lot of different departments. The second thing is I want to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine, because I think there's a lot of confusion right now as it relates to the survey that the Shawnee County Health Department has put out there. One clarification I think is important is the survey is not an ability to sign up for the vaccine. What it is a way to identify individuals in our community who are in the various phases so that you can be identified when and or if that vaccine is available. And then there are processes. I know some people have taken the survey expecting when they got to the end that there would be a sign-up time, and that's not what that's intended for. The reality is it was announced today by Secretary Norman that Kansas has received just 1% of the national distribution of the vaccine. So if you take that 1% number and spread it out to 105 counties, we just don't have a lot of it here in Shawnee County. And I know that they are doing their best to make sure that the phase one individuals, healthcare workers, particularly those who are in facilities and those individuals are getting those vaccines. I do encourage everyone to take the survey and understand that it will help them identify you, put you in the queue, and be able to contact you as they go through and identify those phases, but understand it's not a sign up. And if you have other questions about that, I know Councilwoman Hiller at some point sent out an email with a great question earlier about what if you don't have the internet? What do you do? I actually put in a message, haven't heard back, although I'm sure we will, to Dusty Nichols asking that question. And I'm hoping the response is all you have to do is call the health department and they'll help you. But we will try to get that message out as we get it. You can always call me, and once I find that answer, I'll give it to you. I know this is going to sound silly. I will also put it on social media, which doesn't help, I know, if you don't have the internet, but maybe other people will see it and then help tell others who don't have it how they can do that. So that question is being asked so we can get that information out. But I wanted to provide some clarification because through no fault of their own, I think there's just been some confusion there. So with that, be safe, everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Lesser.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will point out there's been several different types of errors made in the run-in of this meeting tonight that probably wouldn't have taken place had there actually been a different deputy mayor in place. But regardless, I think we did kind of trudge through okay, but I'm sure it'll get better in the future. But anyway, congratulations, actually, Mike. I'm happy for you, and I'm looking forward to working with Hannah on JADO. On another note, I did want to bring up a man that has had a working relationship with the city of Topeka for I know at least 20 years in regards to our municipal court and all our different departments and helping with collecting our fees and stuff. Who was a very good friend of mine, passed away from COVID this weekend. He was one of those guys that he did not speak a whole lot. City manager can talk to some of the things, but Mr. Ken Hollins, an attorney, he wanted to keep quiet, but recently he reached out and asked what they could do for the city. And I put him in touch with Chief Cochran, and they donated, is it two, Brent? Was it 2 canines?
Yes, 2 canines.
Two canines, as well as the training, the cost of all the training, which is significant to our police department. And then has done other things that he specifically said he didn't, told Brent and I don't want it in the newspaper, don't want people to know. I just want to do my part and help Topeka. And anyway, he was a friend and a client of mine that became more than that, more a friend and a good partner to this city. And this city's going to miss him, and I'm going to miss him. So thank you, Kent, for everything you've done for the city of Topeka and your family. I hope my condolences.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, if I could add.
Please.
One thing that isn't known, you mentioned the donations for the dogs, but he donated money to the city that allowed us to buy 20 computers for the Topeka Way to Work program. And that really turned that additional resource for those kids that we were having work here. We obviously couldn't run the program this year, but big donation, and echo Councilman Lesser's comments. And fire.
I think, again, it goes to show the character of the people that we have in this community. I'm glad you brought it up, Council Member Lesser and City Manager, for adding that detail. Thank you. Council Member Hiller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too would like to thank everyone who has stepped up for agreeing to serve, and the boldness in adding yet another standing committee. Not that long ago, there were only 3. We've got special committees going as well. I think a lot of people are looking at re-upping on the committees that they've served on this year. We'll see how that all works out. But most council members, when you add the appointed and the committees appointed positions and the committees that are standing committees and all the other ones, Most of us are serving on 4 or 5 committees or tasks in addition to our service. Many people in the public don't see it, and I just want to do a shout out to everyone for the contributions that everyone makes. I think it's making a difference as well, and so thanks everybody. I too want to give a shout out to the mayor. I hope that she tells me that she's already starting to heal, but it can be a long haul, and so best wishes to her. Related to that, I know people that have had as many as 3 family members die in the last week. So in the midst of the flare-ups, and when we hear reports that instead of 95 people at Stormont, there's only 53, and it sounds like a great recovery, these percents of diagnosis are dropping as well, but we are still in a terrible situation. So I hope everyone continues to wear their masks and wash their hands and keep their distance for the benefit of everyone. One last thing, and that's regarding this past year. We all know it's been quite a year, certainly with COVID, but with our social and civil unrest, for most of us, we've never seen it like that, even those of us who grew up in the 60s. It's been frightening. People have been angry and or frightened. We don't want to live that way. I'm proud of what we've done in Topeka, but I think we all need to take it as a challenge for 2021. There are things we all need to talk about and things we need to do. And I hope that a year from now, we can look back and be able to mark substantial improvements in those arenas. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Valdivia Acala.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Echoing a little bit on what Councilwoman Hiller was talking about the amount of upheaval that we've had this past year. Let's make no mistake, though, that when we talk about that upheaval, one, were protests on human rights and perceived by many civil rights that have gone unheeded, and huge amount of allegations in cities across the country on police brutality. The most horrific one that just happened on January 6th was a coup d'etat. So insurrection, what everybody's labeling as law experts and lawyers are labeling as seditious and treasonous acts. So while all of this can be lumped together as a very, tumultuous year, we also have to understand the differentiation and articulate the differentiation between the two. I did want to see about with the city manager. I know that we're scheduled, I think we had voted to extend the virtual meetings into March. And I did read a CDC article that was saying that perhaps there may be another surge in March. My bottom line question is that if we continue to have the virtual meetings, what can we do to get public comment back to some level of going beyond sending an email, sending a letter ahead of time that goes into, the public record, because we want to be as transparent as we can be, as available as we can be. We know that COVID and Zooming poses a number of challenges. One of those challenges that we should be working on the hardest is how to get the people's voice back on the meeting schedule. So I would ask what you think about that as far as the possibility for that happening sooner rather than later, city manager.
Well, we have always had a requirement to sign up for public comment before 5 as our basic thing. And so that is still available, and that's what we have out there. And we provide the link for those individuals that want to talk in public comment. We have developed a system that will help us when it comes time for our public hearings as we begin to have deliberation on the budget. And we have a system that even if a person doesn't sign up by 5, that they'll be able to join the meeting for a public hearing if they hear something through the presentations. And so we're prepared to be able to have better access for individuals. But we've always had the availability that you need to be able to sign up, and then we'll provide you that information to be able to access and get into the Zoom meeting.
Okay, then that may be incorrect communication or information that I received and or my own misunderstanding, because there are folks out there that are believing, and it wasn't because I was telling them, because I didn't know, is that they were not able to access public comment through our Zoom meetings because of issues with people coming in and out.
We'll get something out to the public related to their ability to join the meeting, and so that they can join. We feel that this is a system now we've been using, and we can do it in the manner that I just described. So we'll make sure and get something out again so that individuals are aware that they can join our meeting in that way and comment on any of the items that we have on the agenda and public comment at the end. Some choose to just submit written comments. They don't want to run Zoom. And so we'll continue to allow both.
Okay, thank you. Also, I just wanted to remind folks across the city, but especially my constituents in District 2, that we are going to be having another Fire Commission meeting this Thursday at 6 p.m. I do believe that that will be on Channel 4. I would say with District 2, hope you really, tune in and provide feedback, because again, I'm just going to strongly reiterate, we do not, and what I've heard from community residents and businesses, and I've been handing flyers out to businesses to make them aware, and there is a lot of businesses in that district, of the detriment to having our fire stations, any of our fire stations touched, meaning closed down or shut down. So I just want to remind District 2 residents and businesses about that meeting. Also, just to let folks in North Topeka know, Northwest Lyman, we found a wonderful contact through Evergy, introduced them to some folks in Public Works today, and that priority is going to be getting lighting out there where the tragic death happened of the young teen on Northwest Lyman Road. Evergy is fully committed to making that happen sooner rather than later. So hold on, people, it's happening. The other thing I would want to say in reference to COVID, and also I texted the mayor hoping for her speedy recovery, is that watching this evening, the ritual of grief that occurred that was led by the incoming administration about the over 400,000 deaths in the United States. It was a gut-wrenching, moving, grief-stricken a ritual of having lights, along the area where the Martin Luther King, talk, I have a speech, I have a dream took place. And there were 200,000 lights, but with the shining on the pool, it almost made it look like 400,000. It was a very solemn ceremony. It was a beautiful and simple ceremony. But I believe what many of the commentators were saying, it was a way that the nation collectively could express their grief. And for all of that loss of life that's happened here in Shawnee County, over 200, maybe close to 300 now, deaths, I would hope that some of those were part of those lights that were shining, and hope that once that COVID is over, we can come together as a community to do some type of ceremony to honor the lives that we've lost in this community. And just to say to all those that have lost loved ones, I'm sorry. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First, I wanted to congratulate you. I know you'll do a wonderful job. And I also wanted to wish the mayor a speedy recovery. I also just wanted to say not to forget about our kids that are not in school. They're 100% remote. So keep them in mind. And also, Tony, I just wanted to say you did a superb job. All jokes aside, I thought you did an excellent job. Whenever I'd call you, you would get right back to me. So I know you did that for quite a few people. So thanks again. It's not an easy job, but I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Now I have to echo the comments about council members Emerson's performance as a deputy mayor. But besides doing the duties, he's just a really nice guy, and it's easy to talk to him. It's easy to get with him, and I like bouncing things off people that I know respect other opinions, whether they agree with them or not. And I think he served in that capacity for me, at least, and I know for others. So again, thank you, Tony, for having served as deputy mayor in the past year. Are there any other announcements?
Actually,
It's a turn.
Oh, Tony, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Yeah,
that was done on purpose.
No problem. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate those comments. And it's really been an honor to serve, having been born in Topeka and graduated from Highland Park, the best high school in Topeka.
I tried, Sylvia.
It's been a real honor to serve as deputy mayor this past year. And you guys are an easy group to serve with because, my gosh, you helped me out when I stumbled through things, and I really appreciated everyone. But I do have about 4 more things to say. So the first is we're talking all this talk about COVID. So I don't make it a habit of saying when I do something a good thing, but since this is something that can help people, I want everybody to be aware of this. I went about 3 weeks ago and donated platelets. And when you go, now they test your blood for antibodies. Turns out I have a high level of antibodies for COVID, which, first of all, that's a good thing to know since I had it in July. And so I still have a high level. So they called today, and there's some kid in Children's Mercy Hospital that needs convalescent plasma. So you can go, I'm going tomorrow at 9 o'clock to the blood bank, and it's a couple-hour ordeal. They just take your plasma. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, but I'm saying that realize that's something that could really help people. So please go donate platelets, donate blood, and they will test you. It's free of charge. And even if you don't have this, of course, they need your blood anyway. So, with all the talk of death and stuff, we can all step up, hopefully, maybe, and save a few lives in the meantime. So, secondly, I wanted to just give thanks to City Manager Trout, Mike Haugen of Code Compliance, and Bill Finder of Planning. As the Deputy Mayor knows, we've been working to clean up some stuff on South Topeka Boulevard. And all those gentlemen and their departments did a great job of getting some automobiles that were junked moved out, and went and cooperated. The owner cooperated, and they worked out a great deal, I think, for everyone. And the most important thing, that corridor of Southeast Topeka is getting cleaned up. So I really appreciate all the efforts from those guys. 3 more things. Bob Sample, I echo what Councilman Dober said. Just a fantastic guy, huge shoes to fill. Secondly, Jackie Vogel. We were notified this week that she's accepted a new position with KDOT. Jackie, in case you're watching and don't know, she's our Deputy Public Works Director, I believe. And she's leaving on the 29th. Jackie was a person you could call when the 501 called and said, our school bus, this route, and Jackie would be there at 3 a.m, it seemed like, and would get a truck over there to sand that. And she did a fantastic job. Our loss is KDOT's gain. So I hopefully maybe she'll be working on the new viaduct for us on the KDOT team. Lastly, since I've been thanking all these people that are leaving, I thought maybe I should start thanking people that are here. And you guys might, I'm sure if you guys, I know everyone gets a lot of emails, but you probably see that Christy Erickson is our traffic engineer. And almost on a daily basis, you get 2 or 3 things from Christy that say, this is going to be closed down. And what I love about what she does, she not only says it's going to be closed, but she'll usually have some explanation about what it's why it's being closed, who's closing it, when it'll be back open. And furthermore, I think we've all seen Christy's almost as excited as anyone else when something opens back up. So, and I can tell you as a contractor, I've worked with her on the other side where I'm the guy calling her and saying we need to shut something down. And she's a pleasure to work with from that side as well. So I really appreciate everything she does. That is a tough job because you make a lot of people mad whenever you shut a street down. And she gets bombarded daily with, this needs shut down now, this broke, and this needs shut down. So I really appreciate the job she's doing there. So with that, I'll be quiet and wish everybody a good evening. And congratulations, Deputy Mayor. You will do a fantastic job for us.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. Councilwoman Ortiz was the one that paid me to try to bypass you, but I tried, but you snuck in there. She said, keep an eye on Antonio. So I said, all right. Okay. Thank you very much for the announcements. And City Clerk, we don't have an executive session this evening.
Correct. No, we have none.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else for the body before we adjourn? No? Seeing none, I want to thank you all for listening to each other. And I hope to be touching base with you very soon about assignments. If there's, I've got the list. I'll be calling you individually to make sure I try to work and put you where you want to be and continue to work for the city in the next year. So with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night.
All right.
Take care. Watch the inauguration.